Luna, the vampire cat. Hearn's girlfriend had left him, but when she went, she left her cat, Luna. She hadn't had Luna for long, and Hearn figured she'd gotten it just to annoy him, as he didn't like cats. He rather disliked them. Hearn was tempted to take Luna back to the shelter where she came from, but he still hoped the girlfriend would come back, and he didn't want to give her another excuse to leave again. So Luna stayed, for now. Hearn reckoned it was a handsome enough cat, if you like cats. She was primarily white, but the top of her head had patches of brown and gray. Yet it was Luna's eyes that riveted the attention. Slanted and of vivid yellow, they seemed to stare right through you in a most predatory fashion. Hungry eyes that said they wanted to eat you up. Eyes that began getting on his nerves. For Luna was always staring at him. He would be sitting at his kitchen table or in his office working on his computer, only to get the feeling someone or something was watching him. And when he looked up, he saw Luna regarding him intently. He also noticed that she would follow him from room to room, almost as if she was stalking him, even after the darkness had taken control. Hearn's girlfriend had made a nice little cat bed for Luna out of an old wicker basket. It sat in a comfy corner on the kitchen floor. But Luna never slept there. Hearn would wake up in the wee small hours of the morning, wake up during the watches of the night, only to find Luna sitting on his chest, staring down at him with those glowing yellow eyes. Now, Hearn knew that cats often slept on the bed, but Luna was never asleep, but always awake, staring at him and apparently waiting for what? To pounce? If that wasn't strange enough, there were the dreams. Or were they nightmares? The dreams always took place at night, in the woods. Hearn would find himself walking alone, under the rays of a brilliant full moon, the light of which was periodically obscured by dark, scudding clouds. At first, he thought he was alone, but then he felt, and then he saw that he was being followed by a figure in white, a barefoot woman in a white nightdress, although sometimes she was naked, the vivid moonlight making her body glow in the obscurity. Initially, Hearn was frightened, only to find himself suddenly overwhelmed with desire. He held out his arms to the white figure, and she was smiling. Her wide mouth was smiling as he gazed into her yellow eyes. Yellow eyes. Yellow eyes? And then it, would pounce and bite into his throat. And then Hearn would wake up to find Luna sitting on his chest and staring down at him with those yellow eyes. Yellow eyes. Like she was a vampire or something. But that was just stupid. He was probably having these weird dreams because Luna was getting on his nerves, and maybe he missed the girlfriend more than he let on. But he had been kind of tired lately, and he had noticed his skin seemed paler than usual. But no, Luna's some kind of vampire? That's crazy. No, they were just bad dreams. I mean, who ever heard of a vampire cat? A vampire cat. Stay tuned. Once upon a time, in ghostly Japan, the Prince of Nabeshima was bewitched by a cat. The prince had gone into the garden with Otoyo, a mistress of rare beauty, remaining till sunset when they returned to the palace, unaware they were being followed by a large cat. Otoyo retired to her room and went to bed, but at midnight she woke up to find a huge cat crouching at the foot of her bed, watching her with glaring yellow eyes, and when she cried out, the beast sprang on her, and fixing its cruel teeth in her delicate throat, throttled her to death. Then the cat scratched out a grave under the veranda, buried the corpse of Otoyo, and assumed her form. The prince knew none of this, and little thought that an impish and foul vampire had slain his mistress and assumed her shape in order to drink his blood. As time went on, his strength dwindled away, his face becoming pale and livid. The physicians prescribed various remedies, but to no avail, and at night his sleep was troubled by hideous dreams. 100 men were appointed to sit up and watch over the prince, but at 10 o'clock the very first night, the guards were gripped with a sudden drowsiness, until one by one every man had fallen asleep. Then the vampire Otoyo came in and feasted till morning. This was repeated night after night, until at last the doctors said, How can 100 men be overcome by sleep? It must be witchcraft." One night at midnight, a young soldier appeared outside the palace. When asked his business, he said, "My name is Ito Soda, and I serve in the infantry of Nabeshima. Since my lord has been sick, my one desire has been to assist him." A priest, hearing this, said, "Your purpose is good. Every night the prince suffers from horrible dreams, and those who sit up with him all fall asleep. It is witchcraft." "Yes," replied Soda, "it is witchcraft. If I could but sit up one night with the prince, I would try to stay awake and kill the goblin." Soda's wish was granted, and the following night he took his place among the 100 guards. The prince slept in the center of the room, the 100 guards around him. But as 10 o'clock approached, they began to doze off, and soon all were asleep. Ito Soda felt sleep creeping over him, and though he tried to fight it, he saw there was no help for it, but to resort to extreme measures. So he spread oil paper on the floor, knelt on it, and drawing out a small knife, stuck it into his thigh. For a while, the pain kept him awake, but as he became drowsy again, he twisted the knife around and around so that the pain became violent. But he stayed awake, the oil paper splattered with blood. Suddenly, the sliding doors opened, and a beautiful woman came into the room. Cautiously she looked around, and when she saw the guards were asleep, she smiled an ominous smile, and was going to the prince's bedside, when she perceived there was a man still awake. This startled her, so she went up to Soda and said, "Who are you?" "My name is Ito Soda, and this is the first night I have been on guard." "Why are you covered in blood?" "Oh, I felt very sleepy, so I stuck my knife into my thigh, and the pain has kept me awake." "What wondrous loyalty," the woman said coldly. The lady went to the sleeping prince and says, "How fares my lord tonight?" But the prince was sound asleep. Soda watched her closely, and made up his mind that if she attempted to harm the prince, he would kill her on the spot. The goblin was defeated by this watchfulness, and had no choice but to go away and leave the prince undisturbed. At last, day came, and when the others awoke and saw that Ito Soda had kept awake by stabbing himself, they were greatly ashamed. Ito Soda told all that had occurred during the night, and was ordered to keep watch again that evening. And once more, the vampire Otoyo came, and found the guard asleep, all except Ito Soda, who was wide awake, and so being frustrated, she again returned to her own apartment. With Soda on guard, the prince passed quiet nights and began getting better. Otoyo, seeing that her nightly visits were fruitless, kept away, and the guards were no longer subject to drowsiness. Soda went to the priest and told him he was sure Otoyo was a goblin. The priest said, "Well then, how shall we kill the foul thing?" "I will go to the creature's room and try to kill her. But in case she should escape, I will beg you to order 8 men to stop outside and lie in wait for her." At nightfall, Soda went to Otoyo's apartment, pretending to have a message from the prince. Otoyo said, "What message have you brought me from my lord?" "He sends this letter," Soda said, and as he drew near to her, he suddenly drew his dirk and cut at her. But the goblin, springing back, seized an axe and glaring at him said, "How dare you?" And she tried to strike Soda with the axe. But Soda fought back desperately, and the goblin, seeing that she was no match for him, threw away the axe and transformed from a beautiful woman into a huge cat with glaring yellow eyes, which jumped out the nearest window, landing on the roof. The 8 men who were watching outside shot at the cat but missed, and the vampire made good its escape and was never seen again. Are you sure? To be continued. Hearn had inherited Luna. Luna, a cat with glaring yellow eyes, when his girlfriend left him. Luna was her revenge. Ha ha. Luna was handsome enough, milky white with grayish-brown patches on back and crown. But her most notable feature were her prominent yellow eyes, which seemed to stare at and stare through you. And Luna was always staring at Hearn, or following him around from room to room to room. And at night she would lie on his chest, staring down at him with her yellow eyes, as if ready to pounce. And every night Hearn suffered dreams that were hideously erotic. In the darkness of a primeval forest, he would encounter a naked woman with glowing white skin and make passionate love to her, only to wake up feeling tired and listless, dissipated, and with Luna sitting on his chest, staring down at him like a vampire. But that was just silly. Who ever heard of a vampire cat? But one night, while surfing the net, Hearn came across a video called The Vampire Cat of Nabeshima, about a vampire cat. A vampire cat with glaring yellow eyes. Glaring yellow eyes. Just like Luna. That's it, Hearn said to himself. Tomorrow, that cat's going back to the shelter. That night, Hearn put Luna in her cat bed in the kitchen and locked her in. He then retired and locked his bedroom door and was safe. Now safe. Safe from Luna. Safe to enjoy a good night's sleep. But once again, Hearn dreamed he was back in the dark woods, the only illumination, the light of the ripe full moon. He knew he was being followed and wanted to get away. But his feet wouldn't move. Hearn knew she was coming, and part of him didn't want to escape. He could see her now, her naked white body glimmering in the moonlight as she floated. For she wasn't walking or running, but floating, as she floated towards him, as he held out his arms to her. Hearn could see her clearly now, and her features were sharp and cruel. But to Hearn, she was the most beautiful creature he had ever seen. Her eyes, those glowing yellow eyes, Hearn wanted to dive into them. He kissed her hard on the mouth, and then he woke up. The woman was sitting on his chest, cold and naked, eating him up with her yellow eyes. They kissed this time, for real. And then the bedroom door flew open, and Hearn's ex was in the room, clutching his old hockey stick. So, you moved your slut in as soon as I left, you cheating bastard, she screamed, as she swung the hockey stick, which connected, crack, right across the naked woman's back. The effect was instantaneous. The naked woman, the vampire, the incubus, whatever she was, transformed into a gigantic snarling white cat with glaring yellow eyes, which leapt from the bed, knocking Hearn's ex screaming to the floor. Hearn is not a brave guy. In fact, he's pretty chicken shit. He's not brave. Nevertheless, he threw himself on the howling beast, knocking it away from his ex, only to have its claws swipe across his face, making him howl with pain. And then, with a most human laugh, the cat bounded down the hall and into the darkness. The cat, the vampire, Luna, or whatever it was, did not come back the very next day. In fact, so far as we know, it was never seen again. But the X did come back the very next day. They tell their friends the ugly scars on Hearn's face are the result of his being scratched by a cat. But behind their backs, all their friends think the X, the X, whose name is Claudia, they think Claudia did it. Claudia and Hearn are thinking of buying a dog, but whether they live happily ever after or not is none of our business. The moral of the story: hell hath no fury like... never mind. If this is your first visit to my channel, please consider subscribing. My name is Warren, and I write and tell original ghost stories and original horror stories featuring such cryptids as the Night Floaters, werewolves, and the Black-Eyed Children. So again, please consider subscribing. Please help me to reach my goal of 2,500 subs. Till midnight, cheers. Video used in today's presentation, courtesy of Dr. Curious, while the music was the classic Ghost Story by that patron of the internet, Kevin MacLeod.